Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever felt like your own mind is just totally working against you? Like it's spinning this crazy web of worries out of absolutely nowhere? Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a seriously fascinating framework drawn straight from cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. We're going to learn how to become a thought detective, someone who actually investigates their own anxiety, challenges those pesky cognitive biases, and takes back control. We've got a lot of incredibly actionable tools to cover. So let's get right into it.
So I want you to think about a time when you felt a sudden, massive rush of panic. But when you actually looked around, there was zero real danger. No tigers chasing you, no imminent physical threat whatsoever. Yet your heart was pounding out of your chest and your palms were super sweaty. It's a completely baffling experience, isn't it? It immediately begs a really fascinating question. Is your brain actually playing tricks on you? Well, as we're about to see, the answer is very often a resounding yes.
To really understand why this happens, we have to look at the brain's built-in fear alarm system. Think of your mind kind of like a highly sensitive smoke detector. Sometimes, sure, that alarm goes off because there is a very real dangerous fire. But a lot of the time, especially in our crazy modern world, it goes off just because it thinks there's danger. It literally mistakes burnt toast for a raging house fire. So today, our main job as detectives is to investigate whether your brain's alarm is giving you accurate intel or if it's just pulling a false alarm. Now, every good investigation has to start with assessing the initial crime scene, right? To do that, we use the fear meter. This is just a super simple scale from 0 to 10. A 0 means you are completely calm, just totally relaxed. A 2, you're a little worried. At 4, you're getting nervous. By 6, you're pretty scared. And 8 is very scared. And at 10, well, that is total, sirens blaring, panic mode. Honestly, identifying exactly where you are on this meter is the absolutely crucial first step to taking back control.
Once we've assessed the threat level, it is time to put on our detective hats. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because whenever that alarm goes off, it follows a very specific sequence. First, there's a situation. Something happens. That instantly triggers a thought in your brain. That thought then creates an emotional feeling, which actually manifests physically right in your body. And finally, all of that dictates your action. It's literally a chain reaction. To stop the panic, we absolutely have to catch that rogue thought that started the whole shebang.
Let's look at exactly how this sequence plays out, using a real-life scenario from our source material. Imagine the situation is just having to answer a question in class. The thought immediately pops up, I'm gonna mess up. Right away, the feeling is fear. You are scared. Physically, your body reacts. Your heart starts racing. Maybe your breathing gets really shallow. And the resulting action, you stay quiet. You completely hide. The fear successfully silenced you, and it was all because of that initial, totally unverified thought.
As detectives, though, we need to understand the motive. Like, why did your brain generate that terrifying thought in the first place? Well, believe it or not, it's actually trying to protect you. So, we have to ask ourselves, if your thought had a voice, what would it say? What is the absolute worst thing your brain thinks could happen? Is it trying to protect you from embarrassment, or maybe rejection, failure? By actually uncovering the motive, the fear immediately starts to lose a bit of its mysterious power over you.
Okay, so now that we know the motive, we need to identify the culprits. In the world of CBT, these little tricks your brain plays on you are known as thinking traps, or cognitive biases. These are the usual suspects that sneak into our minds and just completely distort our reality. We really need to learn how to spot them in a lineup, because once you can name the trap, you can disarm it. Let's meet some of the most notorious offenders.
Suspect number 1 is the fortune teller. This is when your brain totally convinces you that it can predict the future. And of course, that future is always negative. It sounds like, I know something bad is going to happen, or I'm definitely going to fail that test tomorrow. The fortune teller trap operates on pure assumption. It completely ignores the fact that the future hasn't even happened yet, and honestly, is wildly unpredictable. Next up is the mind reader. And man, this is an incredibly common one. It's when you assume you know exactly what other people are thinking about you, and yep, it's usually negative. They think I'm annoying, or everyone is totally judging my outfit. Look, unless you actually have telepathic superpowers, you cannot read minds. The mind reader trap is just projecting your own insecurities onto the people around you.
Then we have the absolute most dramatic suspect of them all, catastrophizing. This trap takes a minor issue and just immediately escalates it to a full-blown apocalyptic disaster. It's not just, oops, I made a typo in my email. It becomes, I made a typo. My boss thinks I'm totally incompetent. I'm going to get fired and I'll be homeless. Catastrophizing tells you that the absolute worst-case scenario isn't just a tiny possibility. It's completely inevitable.
Rounding out our rogues gallery, we have a few more. There's black and white thinking,
which is basically believing that if you aren't perfectly successful, you're a total failure. There's no middle ground. Then there's labeling, where you make one simple mistake but immediately tell yourself, I'm stupid. And magnifying, where you blow one tiny error completely out of proportion and assume literally everyone noticed it. Take a second. Which of these specific suspects is visiting your brain today?
Once you've finally caught the suspect, it's actually time to change hats. You are no longer a detective, you are now a lawyer. We have to put this anxious thought on trial. To do that, we look at the hard evidence. We create two columns, evidence for the thought and evidence against it. And this brilliantly illustrates the process. In our classroom example, the evidence for messing up might be, well, I stumbled over my words. But look at the evidence against it. My teacher smiled. My friend answered wrong too. I've done this before. Suddenly, that scary thought doesn't hold up in court at all.
Now, if you ever get stuck during this trial phase, you can always use the magic question. Just ask yourself, if my best friend had this exact same thought, what would I tell them? Think about it. We are almost always kinder, way more rational, and much more objective with the people we care about than we ever are with ourselves. Shifting your perspective to how you'd treat a best friend is incredibly powerful. It instantly cuts right through the cognitive bias and reveals the actual truth. Using all that amazing evidence we just gathered in court, we move to the next step, the balanced thought builder. We take that initial panicked thought, like everyone will laugh at me, and we reconstruct it using the actual facts. So the balanced thought becomes, I might feel nervous, but I can handle it. Notice how it doesn't just slap a fake smile on and say everything was going to be perfect. It acknowledges the reality of the nerves, but it completely strips away the catastrophizing. It turns a fearful thought into a factual, empowering one.
All right, so we've been detectives, we've been lawyers, and now it is time for our third and final role, the scientist. It's time to step out of our heads and into the real world. Because as you know, scientists don't just sit around and guess how the world works, they test it, they run experiments. We are going to take that new balanced thought and put it to the test through a small, totally manageable behavioral challenge just to see if the brain's terrifying prediction actually comes true. Let's look at the results of one of these experiments. The brain's initial prediction was, if I answer one question out loud, everyone will laugh. And the confidence rating for this fear? A solid 90%. But then, the student actually ran the test and spoke up. The actual result? One single person smiled. Nobody laughed, not one. The terrifying prediction was proven completely false. The brain was just telling a really scary story. It wasn't reporting a fact. So, let's put your new skills to the test right now. We're going to play a quick, rapid-fire game called Fact or Fear. I'm going to present a statement, and I want you to instantly decide if it's an objective, undeniable fact, or if it's an unverified fear driven by one of those tricky thinking traps. You ready? Let's see just how sharp your detective instincts really are. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing them side by side. Let's look at the first statement. My friend didn't text me back because they hate me. Boom, that is a classic mind reader fear. You have absolutely no proof they hate you. Honestly, their phone might just be dead. But listen to the second one. I forgot my homework. That is a fact. It's a real event that actually happened. Now, it might be super inconvenient, sure, but it doesn't carry that dramatic, world-ending weight of a cognitive distortion. Learning to separate the two is literally life-changing. As we wrap up this investigation, the final step is to fill out your superpower card. Every single time you catch a rogue thought, put on trial, and test it like a scientist, you are quite literally rewiring your brain. You remind yourself of three things. I am brave because I actually face my anxiety. I can handle difficult situations. And most importantly, my fear isn't always right. By doing this, you take all the power away from that false alarm and give it entirely back to yourself. We've discovered today that our brains are incredibly wonderful, but sometimes they act like overactive smoke detectors, telling us scary stories instead of facts. But guess what? You now have the actual tools to investigate those fears. So, I'll leave you with this really provocative question to ponder. What is your bravery challenge for the week? Seriously, what small experiment can you run right now to prove to your brain that you are far stronger and far more capable than your fear wants you to believe? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and good luck out there, detectives!